Hi everyone, and welcome to the Path to Reason. I'm your host Cindy Plaza, and today we are welcoming someone I like very much. His name is Kenneth Leonard, and I'm going to let him present himself.
Well, first, Cindy, thank you for having me. I am thrilled to be talking with you. Every interaction we've ever had, I've walked away learning something, or at the very least, just feeling, great. So, yeah, I'm a skeptic and a humanist in the Chicago area, and I'm sort of in the in between of being someone who's invited semi-regularly to participate on other people's channels, but I've not yet branched off into my own content creation. So, yeah.
And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight, because we have a similar path since February, I would say.
Yeah.
We both met through Ethan Michael, I think.
Yeah.
You met him in February. That's it.
February or March, somewhere around the time that he was having his sort of second round of debates that he was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I met him about just after the first debate he did, and we talked about it. And so you and I were invited to pretty much the same shows, and I would like to. Well, I wanted to talk about you and why do you want to create some content right now?
Well, it's interesting because I have so many more reasons that come to mind, like to not create content than to do it. The two big things that come to mind are, as shocking as this has been to me over the last 6 months, there's been this just outpouring of support from people saying that they'd like me to create content. People saying that they've found some value in the things that I've said or the way that I've made certain arguments. So there's, people have been first indirectly and then directly pressuring me to become more active in this space. And the other thing is, I think that there's value in having ownership of the things that you put out there. I mean, obviously we all own the things that we say and write and do, but I think that if you're the person who has your own sort of platform, that it's more difficult for you to run into certain problems that I'm hoping to avoid. So yeah.
Like what?
Well, I think that there's been a couple times that I've been on channels where another moderator or someone has been leading the discussion, and it's taken a turn into a topic that I don't have anything intelligent to say about or would just prefer to avoid. Right now, overtly political content is something that I'm not really looking to engage with, and it seems it's just very difficult to not step in those little piles on the internet right now. So being able to control a certain narrative, being able to talk about the things that I want to talk about, those are huge to me right now.
Okay, it's funny because we come from a very similar place, and we have a different way to see those things, because just like you in February, I had no intention whatsoever to ever create anything like that. And after a few debates, after a few discussions, I had the same thing as you did. People telling me you should talk more often, you should have your own channel, and I didn't want that at first because I come from a very, very dark place in last year, and seeing my face in front of a camera was unbearable at the moment. And now I see that as an exercise to force myself into accepting it. So
do you ever rewatch things that you've been on? Because I can't do that with myself. I can't, like, really, like, it's like a form of torture to watch myself. You know, first, you know, just the you know, hearing the sound of your own voice can just be terrible. You know, you're like, well, that's what I sound like. Oh no! And then I find myself, if I revisit something that I've said, it's very easy for me to get caught up in this loop in my head of thinking about all the ways that I could have done better or made an argument in a slightly different way, or if there's some point that the other person in the conversation was making that I missed at the time. And I need to grow in this area because I'm not able to do that in a constructive way. It becomes toxic to myself pretty quickly, worrying about how I could have done something differently.
Yeah, and so I decided to go with it. I said, okay, I'm pretty sure I will have 5, 6, maybe 7 subscribers, viewers every time. So I don't care. I'm just going to talk,
right,
and let things happen. And usually I have a plan for everything I do. I mean, I am, as you know, transgender, so I had to plan surgeries. I have to plan a lot of my life in the last couple of years. Now I'm going through another very big process to have children. So that's another thing. You know, everything is planned in my head. And this Facebook, YouTube thing, I have nothing planned. I don't even know where I'm going. I just know that there are some things that I don't like when I hear them, and I just want to express that.
Yeah.
And you seem to feel the same way, but you want to control very much more than I do what you're going to produce. Is that right?
Yeah, but I think, yeah, I definitely fully, I think I identify with you in the sense of just wanting to have these conversations in a different way, to try to have conversations about belief and about skepticism and reason in a more positive way. But I think that just by virtue of being in the United States at this moment, that there are certain stigmas attached to atheism and to humanism, and I'm very concerned about people misunderstanding me, or, you know, I mean, it is not uncommon in my experience for someone to hear that I'm an atheist and to immediately start talking about Stalin. And like, oh, well, atheists can't know right from wrong. How do you know? Are you one of those people that thinks it's okay to, you know, for the Holocaust to happen? And I have to be like, whoa, we got to walk this conversation back, you know, and start over because this is wild. So it seems that it's very important to me to sort of normalize skepticism and non-belief. But I really want to be mindful of how I'm doing that and who I'm engaging with, and why. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds fair.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know what else to do, you know?
Yeah, because the thing I heard the most, and I'm pretty sure you heard it too, is every single person has a different voice and a different way of speaking, and that's why you should create your content.
The craziest thing about that to me, though, was I mean, I follow a number of content creators who, from where I'm sitting, just are brilliant, and just elite human beings on every level that you could hope to measure them by. I mean, and so I've struggled with, you know, wondering, well, really, how much value is there in one other person getting into this conversational space when there are already people like, you know, gosh, I mean, where do I even begin? There's so many. I've wondered where the line is between, you know, vanity and being like, well, I have something to say, and being a person who actually has something to say. So, it's like this imposter syndrome thing.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly the response I had in the first times. I used to say, what am I going to bring? I mean, there are so many people already talking about that. What am I going to say that matters, that means something? Everything has already been said. All the arguments used by theists have been debunked.
That's the craziest thing too. I mean, because for any, like, I mean, that drives me absolutely crazy, because there are no new arguments really to be made. It's just trying to find ways to communicate concepts differently. And, you know, it's like, I'm not as insightful or empathetic as, like, you know, Eric Murphy and V. LaBianca. I'm not as, you know, able to identify fallacies and bad reasoning as a Matt Dillahunty. I am, you know, not as knowledgeable as the folks at Divine Disbelief or Paulogia. I mean, there's all these people, and so it really comes down in my mind to, can I just connect with an individual on a very slightly different level than what all of these other brilliant people are already doing? That's all I would really hope for.
I would like to say hi to Larry, who is watching us.
Larry.
And he's saying that there's a little feedback on your mic.
On me?
Yeah.
Let me try a different mic. I'm going to try just going with regular computer microphone. Is that working?
Yeah, that sounds... I didn't hear the feedback, so if Larry can give us more information, it sounds good to me.
All right, well, all right, we're cooking.
Now it seems your internet connection is bad because you're breaking down.
I should still be hopefully legible streaming.
Yeah, you're breaking up pretty bad.
All right, let me try something here. Am I legible? Am I streaming?
Yeah, it seems better.
Okay. Hopefully that does. It's funny because when with Ethan, there's this sort of running joke about my internet being terrible and about how I'm just completely inept when it comes to anything related to technology. So an ideal person to stream online content. Yeah.
Sound better, video works. So that's what I was saying. But okay, we can deal with that. I can see you much better now.
Okay.
So,
good.
So can you give us some ideas of what you're going to deal with in your future channel?
Yeah. So what I'm debating how exactly I want to create content at all. Whether I want to focus on writing or doing some sort of interviews or making more long-form videos. So I don't want to begin anything and do it sort of halfway. I want to make sure that whatever I do is at a level of quality that I can be satisfied with. But in terms of topics, to me, everything that I take issue with in our current sort of cultural and historical moment boils down to breakdowns in epistemology. I think that talking with people about valuing truth and knowledge over, faith and speculation is valuable. And I think that talking to people about how they know what they know is maybe the most important thing that we can talk about right now. Because the conclusions that people come to aren't really what I'm concerned with. I'm much more concerned with a breakdown in the United States specifically in how we arrive at our conclusions.
Yeah, I have a slightly different perspective because I live in Europe, and I feel like I'm sitting between two chairs because I can't be 100% part of this community because I'm not from there. There's the time problem. I have to stay up until midnight, two in the morning to be able to talk with people. On the other hand, here in Europe, it's this religious problem is almost non-existent, and so I feel a little bit like a fraud because I'm talking about something that I don't really experience.
Well, I mean, at the risk of sounding like I have an inflated opinion of the United States, I think that it is still the case that the United States' influence globally is significant, and when the most wealthy and resource-rich nation on the planet seems to be having real difficulty having a conversation about what is and isn't real and how to come to conclusions about really anything, I think that the ripple effects are major, and even if you just care about the policies in the United States and how they affect people here, I don't think you have to be here to recognize or to feel solidarity with human beings who may be disadvantaged or suffering as a result of failed policies or bad epistemology here in the United States.
Yeah, because I think some bad behaviors or ideologies have leaked through the US through movies and TV shows for a very, very long time. And that could be the next problem. I mean, when you have an entire country that cannot make the difference between what's real and what's not, it will at some point get inside books, get inside movies, TV shows, video games, everything that tells a story, and this might infect the rest of the world.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a book that I just finished that I can't stop talking about that is called Antisocial by Andrew Morantz. And Andrew Morantz is a journalist who essentially embedded himself within online communities belonging to hate groups and trolls, and this was all sort of within the context of the last presidential election here in the United States. And this pervasive and sort of nasty idea that narrative is more important than truth, I think is being exported right now by the United States, and I would say that that's dangerous. Yeah, we can all use all the help we can get, and I don't think that a sort of global proliferation of people trying to help the United States figure out, our epistemological, footing is a bad thing at all. So, yeah.
Yeah. To be honest, I think that's the impossibility for so many people to think critically. That's, to me, the biggest threat of humanity. It's not climate change. It's not nuclear weapons. Because no matter what happens, if we can be rational, we can find or we can live after any catastrophe.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if we don't think critically, if we don't apply rationalism, if we keep being dogmatic, then we cannot survive any major event. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that really every problem that I recognize in our culture here in the United States seems to me to be a symptom of that very failure of critical thinking and reasoning. And it's really frustrating. It's built into our culture. I mean, from the moment those first religious extremists stepped off the Mayflower, you know, there's been this culture, and it's definitely not something that can't be overcome, but it's going to take work and real focused, intentional conversation. And I also really think that conversation is the only tool that we have to correct these problems. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think, like Ethan, that we should create bridges with people, even though they have sometimes despicable ideas, in order to get through them?
A year ago, I would have said no. But there, I wish I could remember the gentleman's name. There's a gentleman here in the United States who has made a sort of side career. He's a blues musician who has made a side career out of befriending members of the Ku Klux Klan. And he's got a collection of Klan robes that have been given to him by people who have given up their membership in this hateful group and who have sort of surrendered this ideology of hate and racism along with it. And the effectiveness of people like that is compelling to me. So, I mean, it's definitely not easy. And I think that there's one key element there that has to factor in, because, you know, if you're talking to someone who has what you would consider to be reprehensible views, but they're committed to talking to you in good faith, and they're committed to the principle that evidence or solid argument will change their mind if they express a sincere desire to know what the truth is and to adjust their life accordingly, then engage away. But if someone's going to engage with you in bad faith, I don't think that you're running into diminishing returns there pretty quickly. If you're engaging with someone who's helping you and engaging in bad faith, then the best you can hope for is that a bystander is going to be affected by what you have to say. But that's a tougher battle from my perspective.
Yeah, Larry says that your sound is messed up again.
Oh, geez. Well, I don't know what I can really do. Are we sure that it's me? Do you have speakers or anything? Larry, you don't just criticize, offer a solution. I mean, come on.
Can you try lowering the level of your microphone, maybe?
Let me try.
Just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm wondering if is it coming out? Like, are we hearing me echoing, or are we hearing Cindy echoing, Larry?
It's just that sometimes your sound is like I don't know how you can say that. It feels like saturated.
Saturated. All right, I'm gonna switch back to my little plug-in thing here and see if that helps.
Because this is in my normal setup here, and hopefully, okay. I don't know if that helped at all, but thank goodness for Larry. In the meantime, this is probably a great opportunity for you to talk more about your channel and where you're going with it.
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, right now I'm focusing on created small clips of about 10 minutes on a very specific topic. The first one was what is atheism, because you know that that's a very, very common misunderstanding. I talked about the Overton window. I talked about the difference between explaining and excusing. You know, I just pick one small misconception, whether it's from religious people or not, and I talk about it. I want to stay spontaneous, so I'm not recording it and editing it. So I just go live and speak about this for 7 to 10 minutes. So I assume that at some point I'm going it's going to be hard to find new topics. So I don't know where I'm going. I'm trying to increase the number of guests. I had Ethan. We talked about child abuse. That was very, very emotional. I don't know if you saw it.
I did not. I saw the Overton window one.
Yeah. What did you think?
I mean, I thought it was great. And I mean, this was also very much in the forefront of my mind because that book that I mentioned a moment ago, many of the figures in that book spoke overtly about how their intention was to sort of shift the Overton window in the United States and to bring fringe ideologies more into the center of American discourse, and they were effective at using the internet. So
yeah, I think I'll try to keep going with this. I'm hoping I will get ideas from people, because you know when you're having your own ideas at some point, yeah, it's hard to find new ones. But yeah, when I'm done with this, I don't know. I know at some point I'm going to make a series of videos about critical thinking, because as you know, I made a course with a friend, and the course is now finished, and we still have to decide how we're going to use it. But I know that at some point in the near future, I'm going to make a series of video about this, to talk about it very in depth, as much as possible, while staying user friendly, I would say. But after that, I have no idea.
I appreciate a moment ago that you said that you didn't want to focus just on religion or the religious.
No.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake in the sort of broader online atheist community to act like religious have sort of monopoly on fallacies or you know, a lack of critical thinking. I think we all need to be sort of ever vigilant, because we're all susceptible to, you know, committing errors in reasoning. I really like the approach of someone like Anthony Agnobosko for that reason. It just feels very broad in its scope and applicable to everyone. To just, you know, question how you know what you think you know. I doubt you're going to have any trouble coming up with topics though in this current right now in the world. I wonder what you know from Europe. Right now, I think that everything in the United States is so, you know, the levels here are so loud that I'm struggling to keep up with world politics because it seems like there's always something happening right here in front of my face that's occupying my attention.
Yeah, well, the situation in Europe is I don't know. When you compare it to the one in the US, I would say it's boring.
That's good.
Yeah.
I would love for it to be boring.
Yeah, because we don't have. It's hard to compare because what we see in the US is so extreme that it's hard to say now. Yeah, this is important. This is not important. I know that lately the right-wing parties in Europe have been a little bit shut down by the COVID because I don't know why, but maybe they're just silent because they don't have the means to speak, or because the field is already taken by all the COVID news. I don't know, but yeah, that also has a big impact on our lives, as you can imagine. The cases are rising again in most European countries. So I'm pretty sure there will be a second big wave and probably a second containment phase. Probably, I hope not, but I just hope that we learned enough about the virus and how we can protect ourselves without containment, that we will be able to function a little bit better than we did in the first wave. But I'm not sure because we've seen a lot of people not wanting to wear masks, and that it's not as much as it's the case in the US, not by far, but still.
I saw a meme this morning that was from the end of Return of the Jedi, and your Darth Vader reminded me of this. So there's the image, and Darth Vader's laying there saying, "Luke, help me remove this mask," and Luke goes, "But you'll die," and Vader goes, "I have rights."
Yeah, I shared that meme today.
Yeah, that might have been what I thought. I'm thinking about scrolling through my Facebook feed. And it's just like, oh, come on, people. Come on. Just.
Yeah, it's sometimes, we are talking a lot about having a different approach than people like Matt Dillahunty, who can sometimes be very harsh to stupid ideas. And sometimes theists tend to say that atheists are angry and we don't listen to them and we just criticize them. But you have to understand that sometimes at some point it's extremely frustrating because we don't understand how people can believe some things like those stupid conspiracy theories about masks, and it has such an impact that it's almost impossible to understand, and that creates frustration, and people react in a different way to frustration. Sometimes it's you get angry, sometimes you scream at people, sometimes you just want to be mean because you think that it's the only way they will understand. Sometimes it's
my impulse, more often than not, is to be the guy who just snaps on somebody, and there was a time when I was newly deconverted where that was where I spent all of my energy, was in just trying to be the guy who just obliterates the bad religious argument, and very much lived up to that stereotype of being the angry atheist. I called myself an anti-theist for about 2 years, and the thing that has moved me away from that over time, and that I'm committed to now, is being really committed to trying to see where the other person's coming from. So you brought up conspiracy theories. There are a lot of friends of mine who keep posting these conspiracy theories spread as part of this QAnon phenomenon here in the United States that are all about like the trafficking of children. And I happen to work, so I work for the U.S. government in the world of immigration, and I pay very close attention to numbers related to human trafficking. And the numbers are nowhere near what are spread on Facebook. And I saw a thing this morning. A friend of mine who is a smart and caring and good person that was saying that the likelihood that a child will be killed from COVID versus abducted and sold into sex slavery was like 70,000 to 1, which isn't accurate. And the meme continued to say that the government pushing for people to wear masks is really being guided by people who want to make it easier to obscure the faces of children to make them easier to kidnap. And my first impulse is to just immediately be like, type. Here's why that's dumb. But that's not good of me. Because this is a person who is expressing that they care deeply about the welfare of the most vulnerable people in our population. They care about kids. They don't want bad things to happen to kids. And that's good. So the struggle for me is, how do you recognize and respect where they're coming from while communicating to them that their conclusion needs some adjustment? And I don't think that just being like, here's why you're dumb is effective for my goals. For other goals, it's great. But for what I'm trying to do, it's not.
Yeah, the thing is, I came to this critical thinking thing through a forum that I've been invited to about 10 years ago. And at that time, I was a very logical person, but I had no idea what critical thinking was. And I just knew that I thought, I thought different than other people. And then I met this group of people online, and I realized there are so many people like this out there. Not enough apparently, but they exist, and that's where I learned pretty much everything I know today on this topic. And one of the first ideas that I came across on this forum was that bad ideas exist to be destroyed. Mm-hmm. That's one of the most popular line that existed on the forum at the time. And in some way, it's true, because deconstructing bad ideas brings knowledge and understanding. So that's important. But on the other side, there is this human component that when you believe in something and this something is being destroyed publicly, you're hurting, and that's not a good feeling. So most of the time you will just reinforce this feeling.
Yeah.
And that's the opposite of what you would like. So
well, yeah, and the I mean, even at the most basic level, that the sort of neurophysiological responses to a belief that you hold dear being attacked are essentially identical to the responses in your brain that happen when you're being physically attacked. So yeah, it's a challenge to find ways to work around those systems. How do you attack a belief without attacking a person? How do you? And my goal isn't even to attack a belief necessarily. I think that the best thing that I can hope for, a successful conversation in my mind, is one where parties walk away with an openness to reconsidering their positions. That makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside when that happens. When someone's like, I never thought of it like that. I'm just like, yes, cool. And it's even better when I find myself saying it. So it's, yeah, I really hope that we can hopefully affect some amount of net gain, maybe make the internet a less productive place. I don't know. So.
Yeah, it's interesting because you can. Sometimes I was talking about this with Jenna yesterday. We recorded an episode. She will broadcast in the next weeks, and you cannot deconvert someone unless they want to. And for them to want to deconvert, they have to realize that it's detrimental to them in some way, either because their idea is false, or because it has a negative impact on them. And the only way you can do that is by talking to them and not attacking them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had a friend of mine who I had some conversations with privately, and he's a sort of far right-wing evangelical Christian, a very, very hardcore Trump supporter. And on the topic of his religious beliefs, he reached a point where he told me, and I respected his honesty, that even if his beliefs were demonstrably false, even if the scenario that we talked about was if we could get in a time machine and go back to the time of the resurrection, if the stone remained in front of the tomb and nothing happened, he said that he would still be committed to his beliefs because he likes the effect that they have on his life. And that's a hard stopping point.
And it's extremely rare to have this answer, because very, very few theists have the necessary introspection to reach that conclusion.
Well, I know that when I was a theist, it wasn't something that I really thought about. I was utterly convinced in the truth of my faith. It wasn't something that I spent a lot of time examining. And I try to remember that when I'm talking to people. When some atheist comes crashing through the wall like a Kool-Aid man talking about science and reason, to what extent are we just disrupting someone's life? And, to what extent are we actually meeting them where they're at and having a productive conversation? And it seems to me that the vast majority of what I see on the internet isn't as productive as I'd like it to be. So,
yeah, that's the least we can say.
Yeah. It doesn't make me happy anymore when I see, an atheist or a theist or a Republican or a Democrat acting like they've just, body slammed their opponent. I hate seeing the video titles on YouTube that are like, "Watch this theist get destroyed with facts and logic." I just like, get it away from me. So
yeah, I don't even watch these anymore.
No, it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
So, it's not effective when the conversations are ego driven. So it's another thing to try to constantly be mindful of. I'm always telling people that it feels exactly the same to be right and to be wrong, and it feels we walk around feeling really good when we think that we're right, and that can be a trap. So yeah. Anyway, like I said, I just hope we can make the internet a less toxic place and have some good conversations.
Yeah, it's a balance that's very hard to find, because even when you're trying to be as human as possible with someone, and they keep giving you bad information, bad arguments, and it's very hard sometimes to just let them go, because you need to understand that you have to pick your battles, and that's hard to do in the heat of the moment.
Yeah, the thing that kills me the most in that time is
you're breaking again.
Oh goodness! Let me just wait a moment and see if it gets better.
It's better now.
Okay. That same friend of mine who I talked with, who told me that he wouldn't change his beliefs no matter what, there was an argument that he was using, and it was just a classic argument from ignorance fallacy. And I told him that, and then he goes, "Are you calling me ignorant?" And I'd be like, "Well, no. This is a thing, and there's a name for it. I'm certainly not calling you ignorant. But this is why the argument, the way that it's structured, we can't include the premises are true based on what how you're doing this." And we went through for 2 days on Facebook, back and forth, talking about really, really breaking down and deconstructing that fallacy. And at the end, he's like, "Okay, I see it. I won't use that argument with you anymore." And I said, "With me anymore? Are you going to keep using it other places?" Yeah. That type of thing really bothers me. I have to excuse myself from a conversation that happens because it strikes me as being so incredibly dishonest. But it's not my job to express my outrage in that moment. It's my job to try to be a good friend and to be empathetic and try to have successful conversations elsewhere.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's very hard because intellectual honesty is not as common as we would like it to be. We could say, and sometimes people don't realize how important it is, because you cannot have a productive discussion without it.
Yeah, I only I want to ask, when are you going to come visit the Midwest and have a giant party with all of your friends in the Ethan Michael Atheist Network, who have grown to love and appreciate you and the work that you do so much?
Yeah, you're breaking up again. I didn't hear that last part.
I was saying I only have a few more minutes left, so I wanted to ask when you're going to come visit the Midwest, and all of fans here in the Chicago area can throw you a gala.
Well, maybe next year, if everything goes to plan, I might go to Austin after I went to Canada, because the process I told you about to have children will take place in Canada. So maybe I will make a detour to Austin, but that will depend on what happens on the 3rd of November.
Of course, yeah, of course. Well, and I want to point out that from Canada, it's much closer to just come to Chicago than to go to Austin.
Yeah, of course.
There's so many events that I've I've been made aware of in the last year that I'd like to go to in a post-COVID world, and I am hoping that a lot of people who I've grown to respect and appreciate very much, that we'll be able to have some face-to-face interaction at some point in the future.
Yeah, I would just like to point out what Larry just said. Successful conversations aren't measured by a winner and a loser, but provoking thought and understanding. And that's exactly what we were saying. And I think that's true.
Yeah.
So now we're going to end this show, and now your sound and video is perfect.
Of course.
Of course.
Well, maybe next time we'll have more success with the technological aspects there, but I think philosophically we're doing okay. Yeah,
I think so too. And maybe one day we'll talk about what philosophy means here especially in France, because it has a different meaning. And I think it's interesting to talk about it. So
I would love that.
Yeah, thanks very much, very, very much for coming to my channel. And I really, really enjoyed that talk with you.
Same.
And I hope we'll have a nice chat soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. And
so I imagine you don't have any channel yet. You don't have the name. You have Twitter, maybe?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter as the Ken Leonard, and then I will be releasing more information soon. There's some stuff that I'm writing that I want to release and see what the reception is like, and then we'll take a look at next steps in terms of any other content creation. So,
yes.
Yeah.
So see you next time. Thanks for coming, and thanks for the audience to be here.